I will be introducing you to one of the epic conflicts of world history. Our chronological span will begin with Cyrus the Great of Persia, a conqueror who emerged around 560 BC, and we will then run more than 2 centuries through wars, through battles, through various times of troubled peace, all the way down to the time of Alexander the Great in the 320s BC. Our geographical span will reach all the way from Persia itself in the far south of southern Iran, all the way into the central Mediterranean, and the time when the Greeks and the Persians are fighting it out for control of that important body of water. And in addition to military history, although that is certainly one of our focuses, we're also going to be experiencing the economic growing pains of the world's first global market. I always like to remind my students that when Socrates bit into his daily bread in the streets of Athens, that wheat in the bread was grown in Russia or Egypt, not in Athens. We'll also be looking at a conflict between religions, with monotheism on the side of the Persians, worshiping the great god Ahura Mazda, and a great polytheistic tradition on the side of the Greeks, with many gods like Zeus and Athena. We will be looking also at a clash of political philosophies, freedom, city-states, democracy on the Greek side, and on the Persian side, one realm, one king, one ruler over all. It's a time of firsts. The first formal history ever written in the world was by Herodotus of Halicarnassus, who was inspired by this very conflict to invent the science that would go back, do researches, collect information from both sides to explain to you a great event in human affairs. We will see the world's first drama. The first surviving play in world dramatic history is, in fact, The Persians by Aeschylus, a man who was a veteran of the battles of Marathon and Salamis, and who actually wrote a play in which the Battle of Salamis between the Greeks and the Persians is described as the key scene of the play. We will see first in the developments of medicine, in the development of democracy as a functioning political system, and many others. And we will encounter some of the greatest leaders in world history. In fact, the Persian Wars are sort of a lesson in leadership and all of its various styles. Most of all, I hope you will come to feel that you are looking at a very modern story. The roots of our contemporary world lie in this period, from the 6th to the 4th centuries BC, and above all, that great split between East and West, which still dominates world affairs today, and which we probably associate most with matters of oil and conflicting religious creeds, is already there. In fact, it is formed in the 540s BC, when Cyrus the Persian first encounters Greeks as he carries the western frontier of the Persian Empire into Asia Minor, that is modern Turkey, and encounters Greek cities on the seacoast of Asia. That created a fault line running through the Bosphorus and the Hellespont, those narrow channels of water that separate Asia from Europe, down the coast of Turkey, across the eastern Mediterranean, right through the center of the island of Cyprus, which was at that time a divided island between Asia and Europe, as it is today, and then down somewhere around Egypt to end. Where do we find today's conflicts? Right along that line. Where did the Romans come to grief? Up against Parthia on the far side of that line. The Byzantines and the Sassanids of Persia. The Crusaders combating the forces of Islam. The modern Europeans against the Ottoman Turks. And finally, our own world today still sees that great fault in human history. This course is exploring how it came to be and what were the first great conflicts fought along either side of it. Now, it's customary to think of this as a historical exercise, and certainly when you're dealing with great sources like Herodotus and Xenophon, and when you can supplement them with the Persian records, and as we'll see, the Persians themselves can now speak to us directly thanks to an amazing decipherment of cuneiform characters and of the Old Persian language that took place back in the 19th century. So we can hear the Persian kings in their own words proclaiming their victories and their greatness. But both sides on this historical issue have their own